Today's Politics and Money, we take a look at the impact of poverty. Just take a look at this. Last year, more than 46 million Americans fell below the poverty line. Now, when the government launched its war on poverty in the 1960s, the plight of the poor was a hot-button political issue. This election, though, it's the middle class. But low-income voters could play a bigger role in this election than you might realize, and here's why. In 9 battleground states, poverty rates jumped by almost 30% in the last 5 years. Dig just a little bit deeper, you'll find that if you add up all the poor people living in just 4 of those states, Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, and Virginia, you'll come up with a huge figure. In fact, it outnumbers the amount of voters who made the difference between President Obama winning or losing the last presidential election. And a majority of Republican and Democratic voters said that reducing poverty is important in deciding their vote. So these two candidates, President Obama, Mitt Romney, they could be ignoring low-income voters at their own peril. Rachelle Akuffo explains.
Ahead of November's presidential election, viewers in the U.S. have been inundated with political ads like these.
Raises taxes on middle-class families by up to $2,000 a year.
Under the president's policies, middle-income Americans have been buried.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, just over half of all Americans consider themselves middle class. So it's no wonder they're being targeted so heavily in this year's election. This wasn't always the case.
And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
In his 1964 State of the Union address, then U.S. President Lyndon Johnson declared a war on poverty, a national concern that crossed party lines. His administration founded several entitlement programs for the poor, including Medicaid, Medicare, and food stamps. But fast forward to 2011, and more than 46 million Americans were still living in poverty. Republican candidate Mitt Romney dismissed the poor as a big part of the 47% of the U.S. population exempt from paying federal income tax.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it.
Romney's comment dismissed 15% of the total U.S. population, or 1 in 8 Americans, as a non-factor in his campaign strategy. But there's another reason presidential candidates should pay closer attention. A recent Gallup poll found voters in households earning under $30,000 accounted for 18% of the vote in the last election, and half of all low-income voters are political independents. Rachelle Akuffo, CCTV, Washington.